Welcome back to the fourth and the final section of the extended miasm model, Sankaran's extended miasm model. And this is dealing with the implications, the applications, and what effect using his model has upon the practice of homeopathy. All right. Let's get here. So Sankaran is a bit different in his way to approaching miasms to the Hahnemannian or many of the other classical post-Hahnemannian homeopaths. His point is that there's not necessarily things that are like miasmatic blocks, or there are miasmatic blocks, but his point of developing the extended model was not necessarily to address them or to address underlying chronic diseases. He probably felt that what is important is to have a more precise miasmatic analysis, you can have a more precise similimum prescription. So we must remember that the amount of remedies has increased from about 100 in Hahnemann's time to, according to Jorg Wickman, today over 8,000 catalogued remedies. But the point is to what one to select, how to get into the group to select it. What tools can we use to improve our precision of selection? And he sees this type of miasmatic analysis as a tool to prescribe better. So it might be that in the past, miasms and the problem of chronic disease or diseases that weren't responding to a specific remedy that needed a miasmatic remedy to undo, often needed a long series of remedies. With precise miasmatic analysis, one might need fewer remedies to achieve a cure, as it is described, that rapid, permanent, gentle cure. So in his view, a remedy is more like an adjective that describes the remedy. So tall is an adjective. It must be connected with a subject noun to have meaning, a tall boy. We can't have a tall by itself. It must refer to something. So he says we can't have a ringworm miasm by itself. We said the ringworm miasm with a specific remedy or group of remedies will give us a specific nuance of how we might prescribe that remedy. So a miasm isn't seen as separate to the sensations of symptoms of the remedy. It's another way of describing it. So let's look at how this might be applied in practice. Looking at plant families. In 2002, there was a series of books, 3 books were published called An Insight into Plants. And the focus here was identifying the sensations common to plants in a particular botanical family. So the Compositae, the Asteraceae family, which we know are remedies like arnica, Bellis perennis, chamomilla, echinacea, and so forth. They were found to have in common through repertory analysis of trauma, insult, injury, and needing to be tough with it. So in a case, we might pick up all of these sensations and some symptoms relating to it, trauma, toughness, insult, injury. But is it arnica? Is it Bellis perennis? Is it chamomilla? Which one of those do we need to prescribe? Which specific Asteraceae? So in this case, the miasmatic analysis of that plant family can help. So what he was saying, and he found out, is that the different members of the plant family had different coping responses. Like, as we said earlier, that a coping response is kind of his way of describing a miasm. So those are miasms. So one can differentiate the different family members from each other. One might be this miasm, another might be that miasm, and the third might be another miasm. So arnica is found in the repertory in Materia Medica to have sudden, perhaps panicked experience of trauma, and on that basis, arnica was classified as an acute miasm remedy. So in that case, just going back there, if we think about it, if we had a case where there's injury, trauma, insult, and the person describes a lot of suddenness, a lot of panicked feeling with it, then it points us towards arnica. It differentiates us from Bellis perennis, Taraxacum, Eupatorium, other members of. Sorry, a little bit of a break there. Let me go back to the screen. It's lost internet connection. So I was talking about Bellis perennis from the same botanical family. It has the same overall sensation, that trauma insult, but it feels it's a need to control those sensations, strong need to control them, to maintain order and to prevent chaos. So now we can see all those keywords that relate to the cancer miasm. So the cancer miasm, and so it would be, Bellis perennis would be classified as the cancerinic representative of the Asteraceae family. So let us have a look over here. Here we can see a table, and we can see how the different members of the Asteraceae family are fitted in this table according to Sankaran's work. The typhoid is chamomilla, acute arnica we've seen before, no psora. It doesn't find psora as in the plant kingdom. It finds ringworm and typhoid remedies that sit on either side of psora. Taraxacum is a ringworm, Eupatorium is a valerium, Senecio is a psychotic, Bellis as the cancerinic, Abratanum, Lappa is a leprous, and Echinacea is a syphilitic. So this is an example of how the remedies can be classified, differentiated from each other. It was quite revolutionary this time, and it did much to prescribe the accuracy of prescribe. So this was about 2002, 2003. I first became aware of it in 2004 when I went to what was called a Bombay seminar at that time, in Bombay. However, over time, we did find some limitations to using this method, or only using this method. For instance, there could be about 300 remedies that we know about in the Asteraceae family. If they were equally distributed over the 10 miasm model, there could be 30 remedies per miasm. And that would mean there's no great differentiation. There could be 10 cancerinic remedies, not just Bellis. We don't really know on that basis. So over time, Sankaran and others have developed other types of differentiation. The miasmatic helps. Okay, cancerinic gives us a point in a direction, but you need more than just this table to prescribe. And he developed something called a synergy or genius method, and later on something called the 8-box method. We will cover those later on in the year. So if somebody makes a major breakthrough like Sankaran has done with these extended model, it's opened the way to further exploration. And other homeopaths like Scholten and Scher have prescribed or proposed other miasms. Scholten adds in an extra 4 miasms, particularly used in his columns in the periodic table analysis: diphtheria, pertussis, polio, and sleep. Misha Norland and others have proposed an AIDS miasm. There's a reference to it. And Jeremy Scher, from his extensive work in Tanzania, proposed a combined fungi AIDS cancer radiation called a FARC miasm. And he suggests that the current COVID-19 disease could be an example of that. So that fungi, AIDS, cancer, and radiation are all destructive breakdown processes. Fungi invades, destroys, AIDS a destructive disease, cancer obviously destructive, and radiation destructive, or it's exhibiting destruction that happens in the radioactive molecules, and radiation itself destroys living tissue. So it's a kind of epitome of breakdown and destruction, this miasm that he proposes. Let's look at in summary, extra miasms have been added in, but they've also been linked up en route. They've been joined up, connected to each other. The route is from fairly hopeful, the acute and soric miasms, to the totally desperate syphilitic and leprous miasms. And the coping strategy is seen as the key feature of miasms versus inherited or acquired states. He's not saying that inherited or acquired states don't exist, but the main point in understanding, applying and using it is knowing what is the coping strategy and seeing in your case taking how that coping strategy is shown. Miasms are seen as descriptors of remedies, and that's a way to prescribe more accurately. Sankaran's model has opened a way to the exposition of new miasms, reflecting current diseases, and the exposure to new malign influences we face today. Obviously, things like radiation, the impact of HIV/AIDS upon us, and so forth. Thank you very much. I believe that is the end of the slideshow and the end of this group of lectures on the Sankaran's extended miasm model.